Good morning, everyone. Kind of and completely. Kind of and completely. We're talking about the voice of God here and understanding. Sometimes we hear Him and we know we're hearing the voice of God, but our understanding, I kind of understand what He's saying there. There are other times, completely. I completely understand why He's asking me to do this. I know the outcome that's going to come from it. And so, I understand completely. So we'll unfold that in just a moment. But let's do a quick review from last week. So we started our Lenten experience, prayer, fasting, almsgiving. We know that that's the same gospel at every Ash Wednesday. We're supposed to do some sort of extra prayer, some sort of fasting, and some sort of almsgiving. So, in particular, last week we focused on fasting. And the reality is that on the first level of fasting, hopefully we're giving up something for 40 days. And this type of fasting, it's challenging to us, but it really is going to invite us into the first level, and that is self-possession, self-mastery. I say no to myself in something that's necessarily insignificant. Might be a good thing that I decided to set aside, pop, sweets or sugars and those types of things, fast food. Those types of opportunities, 40 days, we're probably going to go right back to it. It's okay. There's nothing wrong there. What we're trying to do is teach ourselves to say no and exercising and strengthening our will so that when sin comes, we say no to sin. Now, there was a deeper invitation, and I put it to us this way, 4, not 40. Choose something that you couldn't give up for 40 days. I couldn't do that, Father. Coffee for 40 days? All right. For our young people, social media. Okay? No way. I couldn't do that, Father, for 40 days. Think of it. I hope that you're already doing this, but if you're not, think of something that is very difficult for you to give up for 4 days. And the reason why I'm saying that is because when we give up something that's very, very difficult, we move to the next level of the meaning of fasting, and that is self-awareness. Because when we start to give up something that's very difficult, we turn to the Lord and we're asking for help because we're struggling. And we also become very aware of our need for this thing. And when we become very aware of our needs, then we also will orient towards the needs of others. And there is the deeper invitation of a true fast, a self-awareness and the awareness of the needs of others. So, whether it's 40 or 4, it's both. Okay? And really the invitation is to go deeper. Now, today, kind of and completely, we're talking about listening to the voice of God and whether or not we understand it fully or not. But we should follow it. I know it's the voice of God, so I should follow it. But sometimes we're going to understand kinda, and sometimes we're going to understand completely. So we look at the first reading, and we see this experience, this account of Abraham and Isaac. You know that Abraham and Sarah were very old when they conceived and had Isaac, and that he was very precious to them. And so now, Abraham is asked to take Isaac and to make a sacrifice, and that the sacrifice is going to be Isaac. Now, we don't kind of understand that, but he was very clear in his voice. So Abraham understands what God is asking. Now, it's important for us to understand this in that who is carrying the wood up the hill? Okay? If you listen to the reading, it's Isaac. Isaac is carrying the wood. That's significant because he's going up a hill. And that particular hill is now within the gates of Jerusalem. It's just beyond the Wailing Wall, and it's over. Now there's a mosque on that very site. If you've seen Jerusalem and the gold dome, right under that gold dome, that is the place where Abraham was about to sacrifice Isaac. By the way, that is a half mile away from Calvary itself. So you see in the imagery here and the analogy, Abraham, like our Heavenly Father, was asked to sacrifice his son. Unlike Abraham, our Heavenly Father did do that. Isaac is a strapping, young, strong, 16-year-old man who is bearing the wood up the hill. So they're bearing the wood up the hill. And we see how he's prefiguring Christ. This is the important part. Do you think, I'm not doubting old man strength, okay? But do you think that the 100-year-old Abraham could manhandle the 16-year-old Isaac? It's not happening. Isaac lays down his life. He understands, he hears the voice of God, and for whatever reason, I don't understand it. But I do hear with clarity that you want me to lay down my life. And so I freely do it. And God halts the whole thing. Abraham is willing. Isaac is willing, even though there's not a full understanding there. Now, fast forward it to today's gospel, we see that Jesus takes Peter, James, and John, okay, the beloved, the closest to him, and he brings them up onto the mountain, and then he reveals to them his fullness, who he truly is. He reveals his glory, and then he tells them, I'm going to lay down my life, and then I'm going to be raised from the dead, and I'm going to save the world through this. Jesus understands. He understands completely what the Father has asked him to do, and he willfully lays down his life. So what are we gathering here? We're gathering a couple of things. Number one, you and I will be called to lay down our life. Okay. Now, in the gospel and in the first reading, this was literally laying down their life. Okay. Most of us will not be in such a predicament or a situation, but we are going to lay down our life in sacrifice, for family, for friends, for community, for situations at work. Okay, a good sacrifice laid down will bring forth life in others and in ourselves. But we need to see that we'll hear the voice of God, and sometimes we'll understand completely. Other times, kind of. Regardless, listen to the voice, listen to my beloved Son, and follow him. So the invitation is for you and me to think about those times in our life where we did hear his voice, we didn't understand it, and we didn't follow it because, I didn't quite understand it. Or those times where we heard his voice and we understood it completely and didn't follow it. Or those times where we heard his voice, didn't understand it, and we did follow it. And the likewise. I think to myself, My instance of leaving the Navy and going into NET, National Evangelization Teams. I had already put college on aside for 6 years. I got money for college, served the country, and now it was time to go to college. And yet, through various circumstances, things were unfolding, and the invitation was to put it aside for another year and work with youth. So I kind of understood, all right, I have a facility for youth ministry, and I can give. I might not have an opportunity to give a full year in this regard. So I kind of understood, and I said yes. I had no idea that what he was really about was not only to stretch me in the challenges of that year, but to bring me here to West Virginia and to bring me to Franciscan University of Steubenville, where I would grow tremendously in my understanding intellectually of the faith. And that what he had placed in my heart to give as a priest would become more and more clear. Okay? That's what he was about in calling me to NET. Did I understand? Kinda. Now, the other instances, 6 months away from priestly ordination, going on a retreat where we had 4 days, and during those days, 4 holy hours a day. And we were not allowed to do any kind of spiritual reading or anything like that. All we had to do is one question to the Lord and to listen for an hour 4 times every single day. And after that, I had complete clarity. The Lord said, you don't have to be a priest. You'll still be happy. But I have called you to be one. And I have placed in your heart to love as a priest loves. You will not have full peace if you don't follow this, but you'll have some peace, and you'll be happy. You don't have to do it. But I did call you to this. Complete clarity, complete understanding of what he's put in my heart to give, and I understood. I understood what he's asking me to do and how I was asked to lay down my life. What are those instances for you? And recognizing when they happen. Because he is going to speak to you. The voice of God will speak to you either in conscience through the natural light of reason or through the supernatural light of faith. You will know. I know I'm hearing your voice, Lord. I know it's you. I know that this is what you're telling me to do. And in both instances, it's laying down our life. It's a good sacrifice that's going to bring life in others and in ourselves, but it's going to be a sacrifice. I understand it kinda. I understand it completely. Whatever it is, if it's his voice, listen to my son.